Hey Kevin,
Hey, Christine.
how's it going this Friday morning?
It's pretty good. How are you?
Good. So the
Good.
world of PMs and AI, what do
Hey,
you
Kevin.
what are you
Hey,
hearing?
Christine. I think there's a lot of different takes on AI and PMs as a rule. I think people like it
Little
and they're
audio
really using. What do you
difficulty.
think you're good?
Hold on, having a
I
little,
I think I'm hearing somebody echo.
yeah, I think we're good now.
So I'm here. I'm seeing a lot of different takes on this. I think people either like it and they really jumped into it and they're using it to their full capacity. Maybe they like it and they're kind of testing the waters a bit still with different LLMs and whatnot. And then I think there's a decent amount of PMs who are really sort of anti-AI and not using it, but really kind of not rushing to use it at the same time. How about
Well,
you?
yeah, I mean the same thing. So you have just this people who are really into using it and using Claude Code and different things and making all these skills. And then you have other people who are using it just as like a glorified Google to search and to do some stuff. And then you have another group who's saying, I'm not using that. I'm not touching it. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's kind of like the whole spectrum, but it's really interesting because even if you look back 6 months, I mean, AI is everywhere now. It's in every email, it's in every course, it's everywhere.
I think, yeah, exactly. And I also think too, I think it depends on, I think the contacts I have anyway and have spoken to, I think it depends on their company culture. And if it's an innovative company that's kind of maybe tech first or maybe a little bit trendy, they're definitely using it. Maybe older companies or companies in industries that are less inclined to quickly jump on kind of new technologies and trends and things like that maybe aren't using it so much. So I think it's sometimes not just the PM, but also kind of maybe company culture to a degree.
To a degree, but I mean, it's the thing is that a lot of the people who really aren't using it are so fearful that, that they maybe lose their job or
Right.
that it's going to make them sound not human. But the thing is, you have to put AI in the perspective that it can do a lot of the work a lot quicker than a human can, and you can then spend your time on more high value tasks.
Right. Yeah, no, a lot of the comments you see on LinkedIn is it's taking the kind of the admin component away and letting PM spend more time on the strategic initiatives or technical initiatives, and really kind of leverage, their relationship building and maybe processes and just other kind of more strategic efforts
Mhm.
in their role.
I, I I really do not believe that AI is going to take over a PM role. It just can't. There's just too much human interaction that PMs do, but and how to get people all on the same page and all of that stuff. That's PMs are still going to have a very integral role in that. But I do think someone sitting there taking meeting notes is no longer. I mean, that's like one of my favorite applications is
Yeah,
that you have AI in your meeting, so you don't have to take notes. You can be fully present in the conversation. Then after the meeting, it can kind of do your whole meeting summary. It can create then an agenda for your next meeting. It can follow up with people based on action items. That's a real time saver.
that's a real time saver. I think in the sense of following up, I actually really like it for meeting notes to then summarize meeting notes and then say, okay, this is going to my team or different stakeholders. How can I make this communication a little bit cleaner and crisper or more appropriate to that team or that department or that stakeholder? Um, and maybe even FAQs to follow up on those bullet points. So that way you're kind of not overly ahead, but yeah, a little bit ahead of the game a little bit and not, quad having to then get prepared.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that just to have the meeting prep, the meeting agenda, everything's done for you and it's right there. And then if you're in a meeting and sometimes we're in projects that we don't understand, we're not the technical expert. We don't understand maybe all the technology or all there. You can ask, Claude or chat, like, can you explain this? And explain it to me in simple words, bullet points, and then you understand the project more too, which makes you a better project manager as well.
Exactly. And I also think it gives you resources to say, I don't understand this technical component, for example, who should I speak to?
Interesting.
Maybe it's not the engineer that you thought it was, or maybe it's not the creative person you thought it was, but maybe it's someone in HR who does your procurement or your vendor management, or in part anyway.
Agreed. So what are you using? What LLM are you using? Like, what's your favorite one right now?
I
Because it
was
changes
living,
all the time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a never ending, very iterative selection process here. I was using chat for a long time, and then I recently started using Claude, the last, several, couple of months. And I think I use both. It's kind of fun to test the different LLMs for different use cases and whatnot.
Mhm.
Um, I also think Claude is so much more powerful in the sense of its integrations, and um, it's kind of, with co-work and code and things like that. There's just so much more there. And it also seems that, as a very general statement, most teams in most business settings are using primarily, um, Claude, um, or a lot. Not to say that they're not using other things, but that seems to be one of the heavy players right now, anyway. So I'd say I use both. How about you?
So both. I like Claude definitely for more long form writing. I think that it just is superior. It definitely sounds more human. I like the way that Claude writes. For sometimes analysis, I do prefer chat and to chat to have a conversation with about like how should I do this or I like that. And I like for short form content, I like chat. So I use both. And sometimes I will put the same prompt in both just to kind of see what it gives me, what each one gives me, and then maybe combine it. So sometimes I'll get ideas from chat and then I'll put those into Claude, take those ideas and put them into Claude and say, write me this document or whatever. So I think you have to use both and they're always one's ahead, one's not ahead. Everyone was using, a year ago, everyone was more chat or 6 months ago chat. Now everybody I see is more Claude using that.
Exactly. I think it's really important for both LLMs to make sure that you tell it what you don't want. And I've been telling it to actually argue with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'll say, okay, I'm a project manager, or I'm acting as a marketing professional. Here's my content, here's my ideas, here's my copy, here's whatever it is that I'm doing. And then I'll say, now argue X, Y, and Z based on these conditions.
It's funny.
Because
It's funny you say that because I was in a meeting and someone was talking about that they were getting really annoyed at chat because it kept telling them like every other thing was like, that's a great idea. You're doing great. You're on the right path. And they're like, no,
yeah,
I don't want to. Don't just yes me. Don't just say yes and tell me what I want to hear so I continue to use you, kind of again, argue with me. So you actually tell it then.
oh, I tell it to fight with me. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, um, about X, Y, and Z. But I think it's good because it gives you a different perspective. And to your point, I definitely think Claude Chat, excuse me, is a definitely a yes man.
It
So you
really
have to kind of say, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, but give me X, Y, and Z.
and many companies will have like a layer and their own version of an LLM so that it's
Yeah,
kind of they're not just using Chat or Claude, they'll have their own version. And then one thing to really though keep in mind with any of these, whether it's the company branded version or one out there, is that you have to make sure you follow your company's data privacy laws and what their requirements are and restrictions are on the use of AI. So you don't want to put company confidential information into these without your company saying that's okay to do that, which I doubt they're going to. So you
and you
have to
want to make
really
sure.
be aware of what you can in your corporate life, what you can and cannot ask these chat, in the chat.
Exactly. I saw something the other day, actually, and you don't want to then have that restriction at work, but then go onto your phone and pull up whatever
Right.
LLM you're using on your phone and put in a client's name or some, data from a
Yeah.
client into that. That's definitely a big no-no. So again, make sure that you're staying
Well,
compliant with internal policies and not
yeah, if you have
testing
some
the
like
envelope too much.
requirements and that are maybe company confidential requirements for a new product and you want to say, hey, summarize this for me or put this out there, you have to make sure that your company's okay with doing that
Right. Right.
before you go and do that. But assuming, you're within the bounds of data privacy and everything else, it really is important to start embracing it, in my opinion, and just seeing, like, just picking one task. The thing is, if it can be repeatable and you do it over and over again, it can probably be automated and it can be done with AI. And so that's kind of then what do you do? What's your first task? And something like meeting minutes or something like that is pretty easy to set up and get started on that. And then you just kind of keep building on that.
Keep building on that. And I think it's important. I think it's, important to know that, any of these LLMs get something there, maybe, let's say 50 to 70% of the way. And you
Hmm.
have to then go back and check it. So if it's a meeting notes, if it's a meeting summary, if it's a deck for something, if it's copy for a social post, you want to make sure that it's a compliant with your brand guidelines and any, internal compliance points, but also that it makes sense. Sometimes I've
Well,
noticed once in a while the meeting notes will come back and they're valid in what was discussed, but maybe it doesn't really make sense as to what you're then actually doing.
hmm.
Or maybe the timing's a little off where that, there's a dependency that has to happen first or things like that. So you want to go back and just give it a quick glance and make sure you're not just sending things kind of blindly.
No, I think that's really important. I mean, it's not to completely automate everything without having a human check in there. It gets the stuff together. So you're not sitting in the meeting and you're not typing the notes. You're not having to who said that, who said this. That's all there. But then when you go, you do have to kind of go through it. You have to kind of put it in a little bit in your voice if it's not really talking or putting output in your voice yet. And you have to check it for accuracy. I mean, we all know
Right.
that sometimes they hallucinate. Sometimes they don't
Right.
tell the truth. Sometimes, like you said, there's a more of a meaning or there's something underneath of how you want to phrase something in the agenda item before it goes out to the broader audience. So that's where I think a lot of people they're kind of like they're just using AI and then they're just pushing it out without reviewing it. And that's where you get that AI slop and it's from AI and everything else instead of just being more of a tool to kind of help you do some of this work.
Exactly. And to your point earlier, I mean, not taking jobs on the PM side anyway, or likely not taking jobs on the PM side anyway. I think it's important to know that people run projects, people run campaigns, people build technology,
Mhm.
and there still has to be some kind of a human touch in all of it, even if
Yeah.
it's, at some point mostly automated. Somebody has to have the strategy, somebody has to put out, team conflict, somebody has to still have that kind of brain and experience working behind the scenes to make everything work. Um,
No,
so again,
exactly.
that kind of, just it has to stay human. And it
Mhm.
has to be a thinking partner, not a something that you depend on in its entirety.
Right, but there's just so many tools out there that can do it's so much easier when you're starting with something and then can
Yeah,
change it. So if
yeah,
you kind of say, "Hey, I need this product charter or project charter or I need this template or how do I make this presentation?" And even if you're not have any company information, nothing, just to kind of get templates and get different things, it just spurs the imagination and you get that instead of staring at a blank page.
exactly, exactly. It kind of keeps the wheels turning for you a little bit. And
So,
I think it actually, in many ways, it actually kind of gives you ideas that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before.
exactly.
Um, and I think sometimes are not always more strategic, but just definitely more creative. And it's like, oh, we could do this and we could do that.
Because you can set it up to kind of have it ask you questions, you can have a conversation, and
Right.
then you can say, well, give me six ideas on this. And oh, I like idea number one. Can you break that down some more? And then that gives you another idea. And then, you kind of just kind of is this iterative process. And sometimes it is just nice to have an objective, person just kind of talking to and kind of helping you just kind of formulate your own thoughts.
Exactly. And kind of go from there.
But there's so many tools out there, and I'm just really excited about going through with you and kind of exploring different tools and how we can use AI in our project management lives and lives in general, and just see where it goes.
Just where it goes. I think we're very much a quickly evolving, but very much an open slate with lots of possibilities and lots to check out and learn and grow from. So
Sounds good, Kevin.
sounds good. So we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.